Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life. Want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. In this episode, I get to speak with Engel Jones. He was born and raised in the twin island of Trinidad and Tobago, and he loves great conversation. He's an entrepreneur, life coach, and the podcast host of the 12-Minute Convo. His passion is to help you find yours, your own unique, real self. I discovered Engel Jones when he invited me to be a guest on his podcast. For 2018, he was looking 1001 conversations, guests to be had on his podcast. And I was like, I would love to be your guest. And hence, we connected through that network, got to be on his podcast, and it's been a long time coming. Since then, he's had a new baby and he's been busy with that. And I was like, hey, now that enough time has passed, do you have some time to come and be a guest on my podcast? And I am happy to announce that Engel Jones is here on the podcast. So let's begin the episode. Angel, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, man. How are you doing?
I'm excellent. Excellent as can be, champion. Thanks for having me. It's great to have a conversation with you again.
Absolutely, man. You know, when you asked me to come onto your podcast, the 12-minute conversations, and I saw the story, I was like totally blown away. The amount of work and amount of passion to have to be able to do that. It's just mind blowing. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important for individuals to understand who they are and what they're doing before they set up to go into it on a deep level. Because, like, I wouldn't suggest anyone do that, right? But it's what
Hmm.
I love doing.
Yes.
So it's a lot easier. But yeah, don't go do that just because I did it, right?
Yeah, you gotta totally be invested in to doing something like that, and it's really powerful.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Today I was eating Portugal's before I got on here, and I just realized how powerful focus is in terms of the Portugal is all invested. It takes the
Hmm.
entire year,
Yeah.
right, to get into season, to bear one thing, one fruit, which is remarkable in itself,
Hmm.
right? That the
Hmm.
soil is what it is, but the tree is able, like this machinery is able to pull out of the soil what's necessary to produce this juicy fruit. But
Yes.
it's all invested, right? It's
Hmm.
all invested in producing that fruit. And then I realized it's not even just about producing the fruit. Like that's not even just the core of it. The core of it is producing something that's of value to mammals.
Yes.
And I believe that's how our story evolves. Like as humans, we're here. You find that thing that you're here to accomplish,
Mm.
and then you put your all into it, right? You put the year and sometimes
Yes.
the years into it to bring your fruit, right?
Exactly.
To others. Yeah.
And everybody takes different amount of time to produce that fruit. For
Oh, that's
example,
good.
when you're mentioning the Portugal, is it the Portugal?
Yeah, Portugal's.
Right. So similarly, the Chinese bamboo doesn't even
Mm,
sprout for 5 years because it's building that root system. And after that 5 years, and you have to continuously on time be watering this plant,
mm,
right? And if you don't do that, it's not going to survive. So after the 5 years, that bamboo shoots up exponentially.
mm,
And bamboo is also known as one of the most um, renewable sources of wood. That's why you'll see a lot of wood products made out of bamboo because it can grow really fast. You can cut it off in the middle and it'll keep growing. It's amazing.
Mm. Yeah, I immediately think as well as stuff like dates as well, right? Like
Dates.
like trees that take 30 years sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before they produce fruit, which even speaks to the next generation. And then there's another layer as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
this thing is producing fruit and it's producing seed as well, so that
Yes,
more fruit can be there. So there's the legacy block as well. And
absolutely.
I believe that really, like, again, that happened this morning while eating the
Mm-hmm.
Portugal. And I was just thinking, and preparing mentally for this conversation with you.
Yeah.
Wow, it is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the tree the tree stands there. I'm getting all excited. So the tree stands there
Mm-hmm.
and it looks barren, doesn't it? Right? Like
Yeah.
like the entire season is passing,
Yeah.
and it looks like what's your purpose, right? Like, are you just going
Exactly.
to stand there? And I
Yeah.
think I've felt that in my life where there are times where I'm being consistent, but looking from outside in, it
Yeah.
feels as though others are saying, like, what are you doing? Like, what do you intend to accomplish, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the purpose of that?
Yeah.
It's so important for those that are listening to understand
Exactly.
that
What is the purpose?
what is the purpose?
And that, and all this conversation about growth and how each thing takes a different amount of time to get to the fruition, that fruition period. You've sowed the seed, you work the season, and now your fruit is uh it's bearing. And the same thing applies to us as human beings. As we evolve, every type of work that people are like, for example, people are going to school for different things. They're going to school to become an engineer, they're going to school to become a doctor. Every person takes a different amount of time to finish those courses to become that person who they want to be. And I think the same thing goes for business. If you want to grow a business, you have to understand all the innards to be able to understand what you're going to create and
Mhm.
how passionate you are. And it's really amazing because then it puts everything in perspective, and then you're not rushing anymore. Like Gary Vaynerchuk says, don't rush into everything, because what's the macro picture of it all? What is
Mhm.
your main big purpose? What are you going to do in the next 20 years? Don't think about what you're going to do this year. How is something that you're doing this year going to affect that 20-year period? So I think it's all a circle between the plants and the fruits and the human mind, and what you do with your life.
I agree. And then it comes down to the hacks. So that's when you can get into the hacking, right?
Exactly.
Because the hacking isn't something that's going to, it's contained within a subset then, and it brings benefits. So
Yes.
going too quickly then doesn't apply because you're contained by the 20-year vision of what
Yeah.
you're doing. Yeah. So within my podcast, going the speed I went to, there are the benefits,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a hack that I've
Hmm.
that I've done. I like to call it a cheat, right?
Yeah.
Well, I love
Yeah.
the word cheat.
The cheat
And
code.
yeah, and here it is now. The principles remain the same nevertheless,
Mm-hmm.
because the things that I didn't approach, the things that I didn't do, I'm going to have to do them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to be a painful thing to do because only more value will come from it. And I'll give a
Exactly.
quick example. We're
Mm-hmm.
not doing show notes on our conversations.
Yeah.
It'll take too long to produce, to
Mm-hmm.
get in there. But now that I'm inviting guests back onto the podcast, I
Yeah.
have to go listen to the episodes instead of having something that I could read, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
To familiarize me with the person I spoke with. But
Mm-hmm.
that in itself is creating even more value because I'm learning
Yes.
to listen even more and build a relationship. Now, that was the get go, building
Mm-hmm.
relationships through meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
So it's a hack and it's
Mm-hmm.
painful, it takes time,
Yeah.
but it never leaves the equation. It has to balance off, I realize, right? So
Yeah.
probably didn't do it on the left side, but it comes on the right side.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you'll have to do it at some point. But because it's enveloped in my purpose and what I desire to do, it's not as painful as it could be going through that hack.
Absolutely. And what's really cool is that as you go through one episode, two episode, 10 episode, 50 episodes, you also get that cycle motion. Your cadence is much better. You understand the system much better and you iterate as well, right?
Mm.
You change and you refine those processes. And that's what's beautiful about being consistent is that once you have that motion, once you have that habit, it becomes easier and easier the next time around.
Across life as well,
Yeah,
right? Because it boils over, right, into other
exactly.
parts of your life. We've built our lives surrounding 8 things, 7 specifically: mental, spiritual, career, physical, personal, financial, family. By
Hmm.
focusing on those, the
Yeah.
podcast has helped tremendously with that.
Yes.
Again, it's creating the purpose first and then getting into the thing. Again, I like the hack concept. You're getting into the hack, but
Yes.
one thing is supporting the next. It's boiling over. All right. So, how can I increase in mental capacity? How can I increase spiritually? How can I increase for my career physically? And you're hearing conversations for each topic, and then you grow. And that's the power of a conversation, showing
Yeah,
up for a conversation.
absolutely. So, Angel, tell us a version of your journey and how did you come to get to this point? Like, what even inspired you to do this podcast in the fashion that you did? Because a lot of people will like, all right, I'm just going to do one podcast a month. I'm going to do, slowly. So, what inspired you to say go on this journey? Because I read your journey. You 1 year you just drove all over the place. Next year, or it was the first year that you interviewed, you said I'm going to interview this many people. The next year you went and met them and did more
Yeah.
interviews. So
So
what inspired?
2016, 1001 conversations, then
Hmm.
2017, A13, and then 2018. Hey, told my wife, let's go meet these people. All right.
Yeah.
She actually asked a question when I said it, which is, how are you going to do that? Which man there was hope, right?
Hmm.
Which man? She's all in there. And 2018, we did the 48 states and Canada
Yeah.
twice, the eastern side and the western side, to meet past podcast guests, interviewed 349 people along the way. What inspired me to do this? I believe, so there's so many parts of that story.
Hmm.
In terms of the inspiration, it was definitely baby steps, folks. As big as it sounds, it was baby steps, right?
Yeah.
Like in 2016, I couldn't see myself driving across to meet people I hadn't podcasted with. So baby steps. What's really cool too, we did that without debt. Like there's no credit in there. There's no credit card in there, right? Like we came back and we didn't feel, oh, the weight of that trip, right? Exists for the next
Yeah.
3 years, which is really cool. Just realized that how powerful that was recently. But the inspiration came from, I believe I'm a conduit for networking. I'm realizing the podcast is Sun and Fun, right? We're focusing on Sun and Fun, and those
Hmm.
acronyms stands for sharing unique narratives and fostering unlimited networks. Now, for those that are listening, all of these things sound really pretty right now, but they weren't. They were raw and ugly looking, and what am I doing here? So I think the inspiration is understanding who I am and the concept of development, of trying something, or not trying, doing something and then selling it. I believe that is what I would say is the inspiration for all of this. I'm really the test subject here,
Hmm.
for questions like, am I strong enough, or is my story strong enough to build an international brand, a global brand? Like,
Yeah.
really? Is it strong enough? Like, really? Or is it possible to do this from the Caribbean, what is quote unquote a third world country.
Yeah.
Is it possible to do this as a person who has three children and a wife, right? like, like, is it possible?
Yeah.
Is it really possible if I consistently pursue a vision that it will come to fruition, that it will come through? That I believe is truly the inspiration because, in preparing for your podcast, one of the questions you come through with is like, I mean, tell us a vision that's not the same that you've told everyone else, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that's my vision. When I looked deeply into it, that's what I've been doing. I
Mm.
love to sell. I love to sell. And previously I was selling stuff. I did
Mhm.
sideline businesses. But 2012 marked the time where I drew the line and said, I'm going to intentionally invest in myself. And we did that, my wife and I, over the last 8 years, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that's the inspiration to wrap that question up.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. It's really inspirational because you put your mind to it. Said, "Hey, is this even possible?" Of course it's possible because you've thought of it already. It's already
Mm,
sent out in the world. The quantum waves of traveling, and it's made everything possible. And then you take the steps, you take the actions to make that result come true. It's really
mm.
powerful.
It's scary though. Along the path, folks. Oh, it's scary. It's so scary. And I think that's why people go for template versions of how to whatever, how to dot dot dot.
Oh my God,
Uh,
it's so easy. It's so easy, right? Because the one example that I keep thinking is I built this huge playset in my backyard, last year. And in total, it probably took me 20 hours maybe.
mm,
I didn't have to do a lot of research because they gave me a booklet. So that said, okay, here's all the screws,
mm,
here's all the nuts and bolts, here's the different steps, here's the pieces. Everything is marked. All you got to do is take the time, take that 20 hours, put those pieces together
mm.
to put the thing up. And that's what everybody's selling too. People are selling these templates. There's so many templates and versions of templates. All you've got to do is put in that time to put that thing together.
And that's a good thing. Like, I think that's entrepreneurship, right? So some
Absolutely.
guy realized, hey, I love building these things and this is the process. But the thing about time is that
Mm.
we never get it back.
We never get it back.
It's one of the most like time, like my wife we're writing right now. We're writing the book right now, and my wife wrote that time seems to be the individual who is sitting in the hammock with his legs crossed. She put him as a male, right, with his legs crossed and swinging like it's going
It's
right.
going. It's
Like,
never going to stop.
whether or not you want to jump on board, like we're going.
Yep.
And I think that's the thing I've come in alignment with tremendously, the
Yeah.
understanding of time, because we don't get that back. So yeah, that helps you. Like that helps you to do 20 hours if
Hmm.
your focus
You're
is
focused on building
family,
that. Yeah.
or if your focus is family, right? So it's a bigger
Hmm.
focus and you don't want to do the next 3 months building that thing, right? So you
Yeah.
can do that.
Exactly.
But it's so important, folks, to understand what is your purpose and then
Yeah.
go into that. So templates are great, but are you doing what you're supposed to be doing with the time? Because
Exactly.
it may be learning opportunities that you're giving up just to take someone's version. It just may be.
Yeah. Absolutely. You're right. And templates are great. And what I get out of that is that when you see a template, it should open up a door in your mind on how to do or how to set a template up, set your own process up. What is
Yeah.
your own process? So those are examples, and that's why we read books, right? That are written by other people, other successful people, autobiographies. Oh, how did Kevin Hart do it? Oh, how did Steve Jobs do this? You know, what's his life journey? So they aren't the templates, but they give you a path. You know, what different paths did it? What is the one thing that resonates between all of these things?
Mm,
What are the two things? The one thing is hard work. You gotta work at it.
mm.
There's no way around working hard, putting in the time.
Agreed.
Number two is being persistent, being consistent. And
Agreed.
number three, that's the thing about, starting with points. You never know how many points you're gonna come up with. Number three is time. Being in close proximity to, or being at the right time in the right place, or being in proximity with people who are gonna who's gonna see you doing something and put you in the spot where you were destined to be.
That's
A
good.
solid grand plan.
Mm, that's good.
And sometimes you got to put yourself in those shoes or put yourself in those places. I mean, if you hadn't taken the chance or taken the journey to go out and meet so many people, you wouldn't have, you know, it wouldn't have happened.
It's powerful. It is a powerful experience, and
Mhm.
it's a bit slow, I
Yeah.
would say. Yeah, it takes a bit longer, so I can understand, and I fully respect the person that. Again, someone could be on the other side of the spectrum, right? Like
Mhm.
probably uh, 10 years in their mind, they're thinking, I only have 10 years to get this done, right?
Yeah.
Or 1 year, I
Yeah.
have 1 year or 3 months, and
Mhm.
they use the system. So yeah, yeah, most definitely,
Yeah.
I can understand that, but I really believe for the individual who's coming in to this, especially the person who's side hustling, has a
Yeah.
day job, a primary job, and they're looking to get into this, I believe
Yeah.
it's such of a beautiful place to be when you have a side job. Rest is the sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
Sleep is the sacrifice,
Yes.
but it's financed, right? Your day job
Yes.
could finance so many things. Then you
Exactly.
learn yourself, you learn yourself, you learn yourself, you learn your systems of life, and you just keep learning, and then you start transitioning slowly,
Yeah.
slowly. And then everything that's happening at the day job helps what's happening on the sideline. Everything that's
Mhm.
happening in everything now works as this 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 naturistic what's the word what's the word, well,
Sorry.
oh, it's slipping me, yeah, but it's a habitat, it's a
It's
natural habitat, yeah,
mhm. It's an
of
ecosystem. You
yeah,
created an
yeah,
ecosystem.
an ecosystem. I got chills there. My mother and wife, like we were having a conversation
Yeah.
yesterday, and my mother said, "What's the word? Is it ecosystem or ecosystem?" And I said, "Well, if it's in Australia, it could be ecosystem." And I got chills when you said ecosystem.
Yeah.
Beautiful synchronicity. It's beautiful.
Mhm. And, what's it's just so powerful because all humans have the same, I mean, we same hardware. We all have the same hardware. It's the
Mm,
software and how we modify the software growing up, absorbing knowledge from people, from our peers. And one example about, being in the right place at the right time goes back to, hey, how did Bill Gates get the job to
mm,
do the operating system for IBM? Well, there's two parts to the story. One part is, well, he had access to a computer, 24-hour access to a computer that nobody else in the world had access to. Sure, there was
mm,
people that were working, but they only had 8 hours and they had to do their job. But he had access to learn the language to be able to code on it. He spent that 10,000 hours on it. But then what's amazing around that is that his parents were connected with IBM. So that's how he got the job. So there
mm,
was two things playing: proximity to closeness of connectivity. Who do you know, or who knows you, and having that knowledge to be able to
It's
create
powerful.
that thing.
It's powerful. It feels again, if you're into the picture, the Portugal seed is in the fruit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, this the seed in the fruit is what's giving it its power in
Yeah.
terms of Bill Gates and his parents, right? His
Yes.
parents being the Portugal fruit and him being the seed there. There's just this wealth of opportunity that he
Yes.
now is able to connect with, right?
Yes.
Which is where that tree is as the parent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful that you connected that because again I can go and push that back into the conversations.
Mm-hmm.
We still come back to the root of all of this is conversations.
Yes.
Bill Gates is having conversations with the thing that's going to be the next thing, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
the operating system. He's learning the language to
Yeah.
be able to communicate through this and to make other people as well understand how to communicate through this and how to simplify the language. Again, the how to comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me create a template that helps millions and millions of people to understand
Exactly.
how to speak to an operating system, how to
Yes.
create a graphic user interface. And these things are, again, it was core to who Bill is, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But you can take the principles, just like you said. We're
Absolutely.
all built on the same mechanics.
Yes. And that's what's so powerful about these conversations, and pulled me into this podcasting universe. At first, it was all about, okay, I want to tell my story. What am I doing? But then I was like, okay, I've done enough enough of that, telling my own story. Let me learn from others. Let me create these connections. And I think that's been that's been so powerful and so everlasting. It's like my mind is running a million miles an hour because I have these connections, and I can feel its synchronicity between you and I. And it's just so powerful. I love it.
What's beautiful is this is only voice.
Yes. Imagine if you had video.
Like we're connecting on two spectrums right now,
Hmm.
the vocals and the auditory, like the hearing.
Yeah.
Like two spectrums are in play here, and they're so powerful to
Yes.
listen, to speak, listen.
Somebody, I saw this article the other day, and I had posted that scientists finally realized or discovered that the soul, like when a person dies, the soul goes back to the universe.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, obviously, the human brain is just the hardware. The software comes from the soul.
Hmm.
The entire body, it's all mechanics. The software of the body is the soul, which is interconnected throughout the world, throughout the universe, in fact, through quantum mechanics. Like you and I are connected on a totally different level that is not physical,
Hmm.
right? Even when, like, for example, when you were preparing for this conversation, you probably started remembering and getting the sense of what I'm feeling and what you're feeling. So we are connected on a different level, on a quantum level, and they've been studying quantum physics and quantum mechanics and quantum computing, and the it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Today I wrote in my journal, I started off writing. So I say thank you 3 times. I say
Hmm.
thank you, Lord, for whatever, whatever, right? 3 times. I've been doing
Hmm.
this for years and years and years, right?
Yeah.
And then I said, today, I thank you, Lord, for a day of life. There's one day that I will not see another through the lens of this body.
Yeah.
That's the level of synchronicity, right? The
That's
level of, if
amazing.
you want to call it quantum, right?
Yeah.
Of physics that's occurring
Yeah.
because it's and I've seen that. I've seen that on the podcast.
Hmm.
Now, when there were times when I would speak to 30 people in one day,
Yeah.
and no one else would hear the conversations I had on that space
Hmm.
except me.
Yeah.
There were themes that were built every day from
Yeah.
peoples that I spoke to from different parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And now I just simply smile at it, all right, when it
Mm-hmm.
occurs. I'm
Yeah.
not all wowed out again, but I think this is a generation that seeks after signs, and the signs are there. And to
Yes.
me, the signs are saying that you are good enough. The
Yes.
version of yourself right now for this time is good enough. And that
Exactly.
starting point is the soil that's enriched, that is ready for your roots to grow so that you can be all that you need to be. You are
Yeah.
good enough.
Exactly. That's powerful. So tell me, man, we talked about motivations, we talked about the journey and what made you decide to take this journey. And it's to build connections, it's to build to see if it's even possible. And you discovered, yes, it is possible. So what are some of the motivations on a daily basis that get you up? You mentioned that you wake up in the morning, you thank 3 times, thank God 3 times about the different things that are presented to us. What is the overall
I'm
motivation? And
all
we probably touched on that subject during this
I think you're
conversation.
good though. I think you're good. No, it's changed. Like the current thing right now is all about generating revenue for the business in a way now that connects and that I do not lose focus on the who I am, who my wife is, who my
Mhm.
children are. So yeah, it's we're all in. I've transitioned. It's almost a year since I've left my day job,
Mhm.
and we're all in because it's different from this side of the playground.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
full time entrepreneurship is a different ball game. So
Mhm.
it's especially when you've been employed for. I've been in there for almost 20 years,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's totally different on this side. It's so I'm all into that, and again, I've not left a day job to become an employee in my business because
No.
then it's the same. So I'm all
Exactly.
into what is required from startup to keep
Mhm.
balanced and build my family. So yeah, it's changed. You're correct. You're good. You're on point.
Fantastic. I love it. 'Cause, one thing that I keep coming up about entrepreneurship is, we just have 24 hours.
Mm,
But what we also have is the ability to create a team. And what you just mentioned, you have a team. It's it's yourself, it's your wife, it's your kids, right? So you are a team. So you're able to use those 24 hours and multiply it by 3 or 4 easily, working on the same business.
yeah. Well, that's the business of family, like the business of business. My team, so Sai and Lizelle and Amanda and myself make that team up.
Yeah.
My children, yeah, they're definitely on another team and their goals are different. They're for family. And when I'm in that
Mhm.
space, it's all family.
Yeah.
But I think like even with the Bill Gates like example, that's what I'm hoping to accomplish. My
Yes.
connections, like I would love for my children to be connected with the values you share or even opportunities.
Yeah.
I'm all into my children and
Yes.
them having opportunities from my conversations now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the food. Well, my wife first. Well, okay, let me start over. Myself first. I
Mhm.
think it's so important to understand how important it is to look after yourself, and then my wife, and then my children, and
Yes.
then those that I've had podcast conversations with.
Yes.
That's all my focus now. And again, sharing unique narratives and the fun part, fostering unlimited networks for whatever that person's goal is.
I
Of
love
course,
it.
it falls in my value system as well, right?
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
important. But yeah, I'm all in, my friend. I'm all in right now.
I love it. I absolutely love it, and I've I've been working, and a lot of people say, the reason rich people have so much time to be able to do so many things is because they have 10 people working in their team. So that 24 hours or that 8 hours becomes times 10, 80 hours in one day. Well, you can get a lot done in 80 hours,
Mm.
but you got to have systems in place, right? You got to have those systems that can be replicated. And I think being able to create that value system for yourself, for your team is super important, that you come from a place, from a heart of giving, from a heart of being compassionate.
I agree tremendously, especially like our team is in the Philippines, right?
Mhm.
And I've realized, like, so I remember in my mastermind group, the guy saying, "You should be called the VA whisperer," because you build all of these really great connections with
Yeah,
great. And I dislike the word virtual assistants.
yeah,
I think it puts in this type of, it feels like a machine, right? Like,
yeah, it
yeah, my
does.
VA will do that.
Yeah,
Like they're a part of my team. They're a part of my
yes,
family, because
exactly.
business is that you build a team. It's your family. You're going to be in their pain. They're going to be in your pain and supportive
Yes.
in that. So they're my team is, they're amazing, but of course there are cultural shifts,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
From being in the Philippines to me in Trinidad. And the thing
Yeah,
that has connected us is the heart. The heart
yes,
is the thing. I speak with my heart most times.
yeah.
Uh, like that's, again, you're on point. I believe
Mhm,
that's what's necessary. And I came from corporate background, so I know
mhm.
what it feels like when the heart
Yeah,
is cold, like icy popsicle cold, right? Like, and red tape, right? And how that works, right?
yeah,
And because it has to be that way, right? Because of the systemization, I think it doesn't though, but
it doesn't,
that's what it
yeah.
is. So, like, that's one thing I do not intend to replicate, that type of system. So yeah, again, I believe you're very correct. It's so important. Building relationships taps into all parts of life,
Yeah,
and that includes the business perspectives as well.
exactly. Cool, man. Well, this has been a really awesome conversation, but I do have some questions that I ask all my guests towards the end. What is one hobby that you wish you got into?
No, these things change daily, right? I
Oh
know I
yeah.
answered this question, but let me see what I put here. See where my mind space. Oh, carpentry. Yeah, I wish I got into carpentry.
Oh man, I
Yeah.
love carpentry.
Well, you're there building the play set, right? Like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
one thing. That's
yeah.
one thing I wish I got into more. Yeah.
No, man, I wish I had some more time to spend on carpentry um, as well. But I mean, I've done small projects here and there, but people who are building cabinets, people who are building like full on furniture, and I'll watch these videos on YouTube and
Yeah.
Instagram, and it's just so fascinating to see a block of wood convert into a table, or convert into a bowl, or convert into a beautiful centerpiece or whatever it is that they're looking to build. It's amazing.
I'll get to it though. I
Oh,
hope I do.
absolutely.
Yeah. But it's one of the things, yeah. What I do know is that there's a learning level of the basics that's
Mhm.
required that is
Mhm.
never shown on these videos. I want to get
Yes.
that right. So I did
Yeah.
it once in secondary school for a
Mhm.
couple of years, for the first 3 years of secondary school. And I wasn't into it. I was into so many other things outside of the classroom, right? But yeah, I would love, I mean, like the lathes and using the chisels and doing that as well. Oh,
Yeah.
but yeah,
It's
so
so fun.
that's one thing.
Nice. I love it. Next question. What did you want to be when you were a child?
A scientist, laboratory style, like all of
Nice.
the liquids pouring into the Yeah,
I love
the
it. That's
flasks
awesome.
and yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Um, I love all of this science and technology, man. It's so fascinating. Next question. What is your favorite movie or TV show?
Gladiator. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I love it. I love Gladiator. Yeah.
That's an amazing movie. All right. So the next question is right into it. What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Hmm. I know what movie I wouldn't choose. I think I'll put it to. I think I'll go back to Gladiator's life was so painful.
Yeah, no, it was painful.
Oh.
Oh, all
Yeah,
right.
I'll do Gladiator.
Nice. The next one is about who is your favorite superhero?
Yeah, I thought about this,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, oh, the first thing that comes to mind is the one thing you should put in there. I'll say I think Jesus was a great superhero. The one that I align with as well.
Mm-hmm.
Walked the earth, uh, had had a team that who made a fisherman that had great conversations. It
Mm-hmm.
was all about the conversation. So yeah, he's the conversation superhero
Yeah,
that I would choose. Yeah.
nice. Well, there's a lot to talk about Jesus, um, but we can't get into that right now. Who, if you were a board game, what would it be?
Monopoly.
Nice. I was never good at that game.
I wasn't as well, not
Yeah.
to win, but I think it's the realest version of what we live. Monopoly.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. Final question. Where can my audience find you?
12minuteconversations.com. 12-minute conversations. Or if you don't want to spell that entire thing, like just do 12minconvos.com. 12min convos.com.
Perfect. Well, Angel, this has been really an amazing conversation. We definitely need to have another one and talk about Jesus and quantum
Love
physics
it.
and whatnot. um, holy smokes. Yeah. It's so connected right there with quantum and Jesus because of what happened.
It's a big
But for another
conversation.
time. For another time. Thank you so much, my friend. Have an amazing Wednesday.
Hey, I thank you for the opportunity you've given me. You've just immortalized my voice yet another time through a conversation with you. Thank
Yes.
you. I am honored.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good one. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the episode. Thanks so much for listening to our guest on this episode. Please send me an email at junaid@hacksandhobbies.com to tell me what you loved about our guest today. You could find links mentioned in this episode on the hacksandhobbies.com website.